Welcome to R&R Live and Life. In this episode, Rick and I leave Victoria by the northwest of the state, along the Sturt Highway, having entered by the southeast corner weeks ago. We continue our adventure along the Murray, following much of the river's journey that has been through a diverse range of landscapes. In the northwest of Victoria, the river flows through arid and dry land, and we leave most of the irrigated vineyards and fruit-growing farms around Mildura, giving way to more open dryland farming. We were continuing our journey along the Murray, into the lower Murray region, which runs along the northern border of Victoria, and to the Murray mouth at Goolwa in South Australia. We pass Cullullaraine with the nearby lake, a lush green oasis. From around 1923, the lake was a dry, natural depression, only filled when the Murray River was in high flood. The water was pumped from the Murray River above Loch 9 through a wide channel into the natural lake, and then through a channel system embracing about 1,600 kilometres of ditching. These channels operated until 1974, when the electric pumps and the pipeline were switched on. Over 500 men were employed on the construction of these channels and the main pumping station. Explorers and squatters initially disliked the mallee because it contained little water or grass for stock. Therefore, the land in the Murray-Mallee region, with access to the Murray River floodplains, was first used for sheep grazing. In the 1870s, the mallee took an enormous value when considered as an extensive farming system for cereal crops, with large-scale mallee vegetation clearance schemes rapidly following, and by the 1920s was a major period of vegetation clearing and development, with wheat growing the main enterprise. We were beginning to understand just how dry and fragile this open area was when we saw the sign, "During dust storms, reduce speed and prepare to stop." So had that to look forward to, as we were heading to the driest state in Australia, South Australia, that relies on the River Murray to provide safe drinking water to the state. As yet there was only an occasional gentle breeze. The further west we travelled, we could see that we were undoubtedly in the mallee region, where the landscape of gently rolling sandhills and mallee trees dominated the surviving native vegetation, except where there were swamp areas and areas along waterways. The first 2 hours of today's travel would be through the mallee country, though not quite outback, but we were getting there. The changing landscapes was amazing, with changing colours of ploughed and fallow paddocks, then the textures and colours of the natural scrub. The further west we drove, the region was centred around dryland agriculture, with paddocks ploughed ready for planting or having just been planted, with new growth appearing. Then it was into an area heavily reliant on irrigation, where large swathes of land had been cleared, primarily for plantations of almonds, olives, table and wine grapes, and citrus trees. We passed huge almond plantations, hectares and hectares of trees alongside grape production. With almond trees requiring a decent amount of organic and chemical fertiliser, well-drained loamy soils, continuous soil management and careful cultivation practices, with regular drip irrigation being essential, especially during the flowering and fruit-setting stages. It was amazing to see. I have seen extensive orchards in the Burnet region of Queensland, but this was next level. No one can ever say they were not aware of the quarantine on the border with South Australia. There were plenty of warning signs. It was such a quick and friendly stop, and then we moved on, and I would say we were not stopped for more than 5 minutes. In 1849, the border between the two states was surveyed, the first to be surveyed in Australia. A netting fence was built some 30 years later, though a legal dispute between the states about discrepancies in the position of the border continued until 1919. After we had crossed the border, our first point of interest was the Pike floodplain, an Anna branch of the River Murray between Paringa and Renmark in South Australia's Riverland. The floodplain spanned more than 6,700 hectares between Paringa and Lyrup, being a major floodplain recognised as a high priority ecological area that supports a diverse range of plant species including river red gums, black box woodlands, lignum, saltbush, shrublands, herblands and dunes, and an aquatic habitat for many threatened species. The condition of the floodplains is declining due to flow regulation, overgrazing and the lack of natural flooding, which has resulted in the build-up of salty soils, with reduced wetting and drying cycles also causing stress to plants and wildlife along the Anna branch. Rick and I found the old jinka an interesting piece of history. Used in the 1930s at the Renmark Irrigation Trust's No. 1 pumping station to haul red gum logs into the irrigation settlement for various purposes including pylons in culverts over the irrigation channels, and was hauled by a crawler tractor. We stopped at the Bert Dix Memorial Park, Paringa, beside the River Murray, and spent time checking out the park and the 568 feet long historical vertical lift Paringa suspension bridge opened in January 1927. It was built as a road rail bridge with both the Sturt Highway and the Barmera railway line using the same structure until 1982, when the Barmera railway line ceased operation. It has a total of 6 spans, including one lift span to allow river traffic to pass underneath. Originally designed to carry a single railway line in the centre and a road lane on each side of it to segregate the road and rail traffic, the last train crossed the bridge in May 1982, with the line beyond Renmark formally closed in March 1984, with the rail line tracks removed in 1986 and the centre section converted to a shared pedestrian and cycle path. Paringa is a small town in the Riverlands, known for its vineyards, almond, citrus and stone fruit orchards. On leaving the park and crossing the bridge, we wound our way along the raised roadway above the floodplains to Renmark, located on a sweeping bend in the Murray River. Formerly settled in 1886 by the Chaffey brothers, Canadian-born irrigation engineers who established the country's first successful irrigation scheme in the area, with 30,000 acres from the Bookmark Station lease granted to the Chaffeys on which to build the new colony. Vineyards and fruit blocks slowly emerged throughout the district. Renmark is a major centre in the state's Riverland region, an agricultural hub for grapes, citrus, particularly oranges, stone fruits and olives, was proclaimed a municipality in 1935. We found a riverside park near the information centre to park the boat and gidget, and then made our way along the river. Typical of an era where paddle steamers were used to move cargo and transport passengers along the river, was the touristy paddle steamer the Industry, that for most of its life was a workboat moored on the riverfront. It was specifically designed to remove snags from the river and clear the passage for other riverboats, and was later used in the construction and maintenance of the locks and weirs. Initially, Renmark was almost a prohibition settlement, but in March 1897 a liquor licence was granted to the Renmark Hotel, and it became the first community-owned hotel in the Commonwealth and was administered by a trust. During its brief history, Renmark has witnessed many changes. Once it played a major role as a port for paddle steamers, until the introduction of the railway signalled the end of river trade era. The railway was, in turn, made redundant with the advent of prime movers to transport freight. The township has survived and endured memorable floods on a regular basis since 1870s, none will surpass the Great Flood of 1956, and with its arid climate and low average rainfall, frequently faces drought conditions such as the 1914 drought and the Millennium Drought between 1997 and 2009, and the threat of bushfires, all of these in just over 100 years. Renmark Irrigation Trust Building was built by the Chaffey brothers as their offices in the 1880s, prior to when the state government formed the Renmark Irrigation Trust, with its main function to provide water to the landholders after the Chaffeys experienced financial difficulties. The trust still flourishes today and has developed the irrigation system from open channels to a network of underground pipelines servicing over 5,000 hectares in the Renmark district, with the channels completely replaced by 1981. In the front yard was one of the original Chaffey brothers' pumps. Further along the street we came across a large-scale mural of R.M. Williams, Australian bushman and entrepreneur, on the back of Yates' menswear store. R.M. rose from a swagman to a millionaire, having been born near Jamestown in the mid-north of South Australia, into a pioneering settler family, working and training horses. R.M. had many adventures in Australia's rugged outback as a bushman, and where I knew him from when he was living at Rocky Bar in the North Burnett in Queensland. There is no better boot, or one more comfortable, be it a riding or for casual wear, than an R.M. riding boot. After enjoying the sights around Renmark, we made our way back to the boat and Gidget and continued on the Sturt Highway to the Old Sturt Highway to Barmera and Lake Bonney, first through Monash. Monash was proclaimed in 1921 and named after General Sir John Monash, a World War I Army commander, who we had crossed paths with in the small New South Wales town of Jerilderie in the Riverina region, where he claimed to have met the bushranger Ned Kelly during the Kelly Gang's raid in 1879. The primary industries in the area are irrigated horticulture and viticulture. Lake Bonney Riverland is a popular freshwater lake in the Riverland region. I could not have asked for a more picturesque setting, with its tortured trees, abundant bird life, and golden skies signalling knock-off time as we watched the vibrant sunset. Lake Bonney, near Barmera in the heart of the Riverland, is fed by the Murray River through the Chambers Creek wetlands, with lovely white sandy beaches with an average depth of 1 to 2 metres. The lake is named after Charles Bonney, who was one of the first Europeans to drive livestock from New South Wales to Adelaide. The following day we made our way to Kingston-on-Murray, a small town on the mighty Murray, at the heart of a rich agricultural district. The area around the town is surrounded by vineyards and orchards. Up until 1973, the town was an important crossing point on the Murray, and it was common for cars and trucks to be waiting for the ferry on both sides of the river. This changed when a new bridge was constructed taking the Sturt Highway around the edge of town. Originally called Kingston, the town was part of the new village settlement scheme started in the 1890s. The tag, on Murray, was added to distinguish it from the town Kingston in the state's southeast. The town was named after Charles Cameron Kingston, who was Premier of South Australia from 1893 to 1899. He was a hugely important figure in state and federal politics, being involved in the drafting of the first federal constitution and becoming a minister in one of the early federal governments. The town was first surveyed in 1915 and was originally called Thurk, which was the name of the property where the town now stands. In the 1890s, all Mallee pastoral runs were severely affected by drought, rabbits, wild dogs, and a depressed economy. In the 1890s, with holdings deserted, and by 1900 had reverted to Crown land. Between 1906 and 1912, a huge influx of people came to the Mallee to try their luck, either as farmers, workers or traders. As farms developed across the Mallee, small towns grew up around rail sidings. The main phase of agricultural development only took 25 years. The Mallee underwent an incredibly rapid rate of settlement, despite this period also having one of the worst recorded droughts in 1914, the First World War, and the Great Depression. Then, in the late 1980s, the population across the district declined markedly due to a severe economic downturn Australia-wide, which coincided with the scaling back of government services in Mallee towns, with cereal farms needing to increase in size to remain viable. What an amazing couple of days, where early pastoral leases were taken out by John White in the region south of the Murray River. Some of the pastoral leases he acquired had previously been stocked by cattle, but White restocked them with sheep. In 1877, White held a total of 21 pastoral leases, covering a total of 8,660 square kilometres, though not all at the same time. He grazed up to 61,780 sheep in addition to some cattle, as well as owning several paddle steamers servicing the Murray River. The area along the River Murray has been really interesting to date. The history, landscape, the port towns and small rural communities have been fascinating as we follow the meandering river channels, seeing an abundance of bird life, ancient red gum forests and mallee. The beauty and tranquility of the area is practically indescribable. I keep coming back to amazing. Nearly outback, but not there yet, I think, though to be honest, this vast, remote and sparsely populated semi-arid region could be considered outback. Historic country towns, grazing land, pink-hued lakes, sand dunes, wild mallee scrub, ploughed paddocks, nature reserves. Who could ask for more? I hope you have enjoyed this episode. Give us a thumbs up if you have. Join us next time as we check out Waikerie, where the breeze begins, and we return to Gidget to put the awning in before returning to more exploring of Loxley and Berry. Stay safe and enjoy life. Cheers for now. Rick and Rosemary. R&R Living Life.